So I finally went to go see the Joker movie, and I have thoughts. For a second, I really wanted to say that there were mixed reviews about this movie, but there really isn't. Like, the consensus is very clear. Like, you guys hated this movie. Despite hearing the negative reviews and people projecting this movie to be a box office bomb or flop, there was no way I was not going to see Joker 2 in theaters. I saw the first one in theaters 3 times. Nothing was going to stop me from seeing this. So people are super pissed off at writer-director Todd Phillips. Honestly, it did take a lot of research for me to figure out like what was the problem, like why people were having such a visceral, angry reaction. Like, I watched at least 7 YouTube videos of people saying that this is like the most horrible movie, this is the most horrible sequel. And if you can't tell where I'm going, honestly, I feel like y'all are dragging it. Like, I'm sorry, I feel like y'all are dragging it. We'll get into that in this video, so if you wanted to watch a Joker video where I just sit here for 20 something minutes and just drag the movie and talk about how horrible it was, this is not that type of video. I don't think that this was a bad movie. And I think what it really comes down to is the fact that, like the title says, Todd Phillips, he chose art. He chose experimentation. He chose the fantasy. He got a blank check and he did his thing with it. People didn't want that. They wanted fan service. And I feel like if you people that wanted fan service, paid attention to how Todd Phillips did not like the reaction to the original film, that should have at least given you a heads up to the direction that this was starting to go in. I feel like a lot of people who were super fans of this movie also didn't understand the first one all the way, but just like my review and anyone else's reviews or interpretations, I do believe that a review or a love for a movie or analysis or whatever is an interpretation of you as a person. You can see things in a movie that other people don't see, that other people didn't feel, that maybe even the director or writer didn't even intend to write in their movie, but you might feel that because of your life experiences, the things that you've been through, the books you've read, other movies you watch. And so I feel like a lot of people who are upset at this is just based off of me looking on Twitter and reading YouTube comments, that a lot of people watched this movie and they felt a connection to Arthur Fleck in a way that they viewed him as a justification for their anger, and they viewed him as, like they talked about in the movie, as a martyr. Arthur Fleck showed the rage that people felt. They lived through him, which is the beauty of cinema, the beauty of movies, which I said movies can really change the world. They lived through Arthur Fleck in a way in that he got back at society. He took his revenge. People lived through that and they really felt it on a visceral level. And I'd be lying to say if I didn't. Also, if you look back on my film inspiration board, Heath Ledger's Joker, and I also have Joaquin Phoenix Joker, because I am, Freudian slip there, I am a super fan of the film. Like I said, I saw it 3 times. You guys see me up here laughing and joking and kikiing, but there is another side of me that strongly relates with the Joker, both Heath Ledger's version and Joaquin's version, who in some ways want to just see it all burn down. The opening line in the movie, like, is it just me or is it getting crazy out there? That sense of foreboding, that sense of darkness, that nihilism that I feel like a lot of the fans, like millennials and Gen Z, all relate to. That sense of nihilism of like, what's the point in trying? It's just like bad break after bad break after bad break. That's why I love Batman so much, because I do have the justice, the peace, the righteousness side of, like, let's say Batman, and then I also have the this world is and let it all burn down Joker side of me. And if you are a longtime viewer, you can go onto my videos and you will see there is a video of me paying homage to this movie in a very almost literal way. Okay, if you catch my drift, you just have to go on my page and search for it. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? I've seen a lot of people saying, F you, Todd Phillips, like, who do you think you are? A specific comment with thousands of likes. I've seen this multiple times. that Joker 2 was a middle finger and F you to all of the fans of the first one. If people feel like that, that's how they feel. But I don't feel like this was that. I watched a lot of interviews with Todd Phillips where he talks about the progression from where Arthur Fleck started in the first one to now. How in the first movie we did see a lot of dancing, we did see a lot of music, and if I'm not mistaken, there was a line in the film where I believe his mother or somebody says that he has music inside him. So for them, it felt like this was the natural progression to go. All right, let's just get into my overall interpretation of the movie. Is that I can understand why people felt that. I felt similar when I watched Oppenheimer, and I'm actually really curious if you guys leave a comment in the comment section. If you are somebody that did not like the Joker movie, did you like Oppenheimer? I need to know. I need to fucking know, because I would say I'm a Christopher Nolan fan, but I went to that movie thinking that it was going to be something else, and then getting basically a long drawn out legal drama music video. I was pretty disappointed with that movie, and I wanted it to be over, and I was like, what is taking so long? Like, I want to get out of here. Like, this was just like, it was just not it. Like, I was just not into it. Like, I really did not feel that movie at all, and I want to know how you guys felt. And I did feel a little bit of a similar feeling, that I went to Joker 2 thinking I was going to get something else, and then ended up leaving with a legal drama. But I still think that the movie was enjoyable. I feel like the music thing made sense. I feel like it was overdone. Why are you giving us a full song? Like, it shouldn't be like 2 verses, a chorus, and then a bridge and stuff like it did not need to be all of that. For whatever reason, the fact that this film has sparked such rage in the fans, I feel more so speaks to the fans and their own mentality. I mean, I might not have talked about this, but this is like, I guess I would say, like a cultural conversation about how a lot of millennials or a lot of Gen Z don't really have anything to believe in. And so we have these little subcultures of like Marvel fans or Star Wars fans or Clean Girls or BTS fans or like Beyonce fans and Michael Jackson fans. Hi, that's me. We become obsessed and we become infatuated with these things. I feel like people look to him and became infatuated, and it was more than just a movie that you enjoyed to a lot of people. That the character of Arthur Fleck in the Joker movie sent a message, and we were all there back in 2019. The news was going crazy saying like, this movie is irresponsible, it's going to inspire mass it's going to spike violence amongst people. At that time, they had viewed it as something that was extremely powerful. The original movie was kind of based off of the King of Comedy, which is a sick movie, Martin Scorsese. I love the movie. And it was also based off the Killing Joke. The whole idea that one bad day could set somebody off, you know? After you live a life of bad days, one day you're just not going to be able to take it anymore, and you're going to go postal. I fuck with the message, okay? I fuck with the message. I agree with it. I'm not going to go postal, but I get it, okay? I totally get it. So I understand people's passion. But I do feel a little bit like the Joker movie did not fulfill the fantasy that a lot of people had of where they wanted him to go. Like, they wanted him to really get his revenge, to really get back at society, to really things over. No, this is not to talk down on anyone who's upset. I'm just speaking how I feel. They did not get that release that they got from the first one, and they have to come to face, this is my nihilism talking, they had to come to face with the reality that there is no justice. The guy who fights back doesn't win in the end. The guy who's a martyr and, F's the system and takes matters into his own hands, and he's a vigilante, gets back at society and he moons the crowd, and he gets the girl. It doesn't happen. Like Arthur Fleck, life fucking sucks. Life is a bitch. And then you get stabbed with a shiv and die. That's what this movie was. And that upset people. It's understandable. I wanted to do this review more organized in like a more review fashion where you say what it's about. But I guess this is just, it's more of a stream of consciousness, I guess. Joker 2 is basically the story of Arthur Fleck a few years after he committed the crimes in the first movie. And he is locked up in Arkham Asylum, awaiting his trial, which is steadily coming fast, and showing his life living in the asylum, how he gets along with his jailmates, and preparing for his upcoming trial. And his lawyer lets him know that he needs to see a psychiatrist who's going to evaluate him for trial to make sure that he's not able to stand trial and to show that he had a mental illness. The psychiatrist basically starts to train him into how he can, it seems like how he can sell that he was actually not in his right mind. I don't know why he needs to sell this, because it's pretty obvious that Arthur was not in his right mind. He is someone who definitely has earned their bed in a mental institution in Arkham Asylum, okay? I think it's actually really cool that this takes place in Arkham Asylum. I feel like in the movies you always hear about it, but you don't actually like get to spend time there and see what it's like day to day there. That being said, I will say that some of my favorite characters in the movie were actually the jail guards. The one actor who played Mad-Eye Moody, but I thought he was great. Like, he felt super organic. Like, everything that they did felt really natural. And I'll just take this talking about their acting to leap off and say that Joaquin Phoenix, he may leave a movie 5 days before it starts shooting, but he is one of the best to ever do it. He's one of the best to ever do it. I still have never forgiven him for killing Maximus in Gladiator. Because his acting is that good, I'm still not able to forgive him for doing that. Like, he is definitely a method actor and all that stuff. The kooky, crazy, all that. He can really get there. Like, he is a full body physical actor. He is not just someone who says lines. He is not someone who just can make the expressions, who can cry on cue. His whole body, like everything, he's very physical. And in this movie, again, he had to sing, he had to dance. Like, he really all around put everything into this role. At the asylum, Arthur is a pretty well-known character by a lot of people. The guards are always asking him to tell a joke, and I think it's because they know that his jokes are like super fucked up. It's very obvious at this point that these guards and people around him want Arthur to be Joker. They want him to be that guy that they knew, that took revenge on the city, that became famous, that hurt all those people, that, pew-pewed Murray, Murray on camera. He's having a hard time because he's just Arthur, but everybody wants him to be that other guy. One of the prison guards apparently likes to sing and signs Arthur up for a singing class. And so they take him over to the singing class, and that's where he sees a woman who he's attracted to, Lee Quinzel, played by Lady Gaga, who is Harley Quinn. So eventually he goes back to the singing class and he actually meets Lee, and she expresses that she grew up in the same neighborhood as him, and she just really admires him, and she really, is attracted to him, and she congratulates him for the stuff that he did, because like a lot of people, us fans, whatever, saw him as a martyr, as fighting back against the system, as fighting back against the city. And as a New Yorker, like the true deep levels of disgust that you can feel at the city, at the world, at society. She's like telling him, like, you really did that thing. Like, we love you out here. Arthur, who is someone who has never had that kind of relationship in his life. He's always been overlooked. He is the quintessential incel character. He really liked Harley's attention. She's an attractive woman. He liked that she also had the same dark nihilism that he also had. And so there's a point in the movie where they're watching a film and Arthur is with Lee. While they're watching the film, she sets a piano on fire and it messes up the whole hospital. Everybody's evacuating. And he and her are just dancing in the rain and singing and having their love story. And it's just really like something out of a movie, right? And as someone who has ran holding hands with a guy and kissed in the rain, it's not really hard for me to see where Todd Phillips was going. Like him trying to show that feeling, right? Like him trying to show the magic and the music of what was happening. And someone like Arthur, who's never had a break, who's never had a girl like him, who's never had a girl fall in love with him, that he had to, to the point where he was fantasizing, like in the first movie, about his neighbor. This felt larger than life. It felt really big. It makes sense to me. Like, it just makes sense that he would go there. I have to give him props, because there are people that, like I said, they feel like Todd Phillips said, fuck y'all, to his fans. And honestly, I fucking respect it. That sounds so bad. Listen, things are not black and white, okay? I'll probably sound like a hypocrite when I'm saying that these studios are not giving us what we want. They're not giving us what we want. Dude really said, fuck y'all. I'm about to make some art. Fuck it. I'm about to make some art, yo. And I think we have to ask ourselves, like, we want filmmakers to make new things, right? We want filmmakers to take risks. We want them to think outside the box. And then when they do think outside the box, and the risk he had to take to do this with a blockbuster, to think outside the box with a blockbuster, it needs to be congratulated. I'm sorry. Do you hear me over there? I can't say that it was bad. I feel like it's antithetical of me being a filmmaker and me being someone who wants to take risks and me wanting studios to do better. I can't say that was bad. I just can't. He said, fuck it. Fuck what y'all want. Y'all want him to kill half the city and get his revenge, man? Fuck that, man. He's just another loser. Okay, we're gonna get there today. It looks like they try to escape. They catch Arthur back. Lee Quinzel, she's definitely giving, the type of women that write to serial killers about how they want to marry them and be with them and all that. She's definitely giving that energy, right? She's all over him. She's super attracted to him. She's super attracted to his message and what he wants to do. The news station was talking about the upcoming trial, and they said that Arthur was going to get the death penalty. And one of the prison guards asked him, like, you hear that? They're gonna fry you. Like, how do you feel? And Arthur's just standing at the TV. He's just like, for once in my life, I found someone who needs me. I thought it was so good. Like, I thought it made sense. Sarcastic, but tongue-in-cheek, but like cringy, but in like a good way, but like makes sense. Like I said, my big criticism is that he made the dance sequences, the singing sequences go on way too long. We should not be hearing a second verse. We should not be hearing no chorus. And we damn sure shouldn't be hearing no damn bridge, okay? And I also feel like there were too many of them. In the back, there's a creepy ass looking dude just watching Arthur, smiling, staring at him. Arthur does the whole jailhouse interview. There's a real slimy journalist that comes in to ask him about, just pretty much shame him for what he's done and talk to him about, his trial and what's going to happen to him and all that. Arthur seems like he's trying to go along with the whole I'm mentally insane. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't do this. But the interviewer keeps pushing him to make the real Arthur come out, in my opinion. I believe that Arthur was doing this because, like he said, he fell in love with Lee. It gave him a new lease on life. Like I said, if you come from the incel side, if you come from the pick-me side, they're correlated. If you come from that side, you meet someone and all of a sudden, life's great. All of a sudden you have something to live for. A woman who actually liked him back. And so from trying to escape, Arthur's put in solitary confinement. When Lee visits him, they end up doing the nasty thing. And it's very quick because, I don't know, but Arthur gives a little bit of virgin vibes to me. I don't know if it's just me. It might just be me. She lets him know that she's going to be at his trial. The trial starts, and guess who our assistant district attorney is? Harvey Dent. I mean, the actor, he did fine, but he just didn't have the look for me. I mean, he's Harvey Dent, right? Like, he's supposed to come across a certain way, and I guess he's supposed to be the young district attorney, but he just didn't have the look to me. He didn't have the energy. I didn't feel the power. Like, this guy was going to be the DA that turns around Gotham. Like, I didn't get that vibe from him. Despite whatever's going on with this movie, like, I do feel really sad because I really wanted to explore this version of Gotham more. Like, this feels very New York. I want to be in this world more. Everything about it felt very, very New York. I'm just sad that it had to end. They take a recess from the trial. Arthur's attorney tells him that Lee is not actually insane, that she checked herself into the hospital to get close to him, that she was a psychiatry student, and that she's actually very wealthy and comes from the Upper West Side. Lady Gaga, I mean, she just killed it, didn't she? Like, I hope that she is very selective about the roles that she plays. I hope she continues because she's phenomenal. Like, she really gives that vibe. It turned out that she had faked all that. You know, she comes to see Arthur and he asks her about it. And she just kind of admits to, you know, lying about everything like it's no big deal. Honestly, it feels like her and him are basically two sides of the same coin. He just so happens to be growing up poor and she grew up wealthy. But they both are the same nihilistic monster deep down. Over the course of the trial, it does seem to descend into like kangaroo court vibes. Only in Gotham City would the Joker be able to represent himself in court in full costume and full makeup and everything. Brilliant. Like, am I...
Also, does this judge look a little familiar to you guys, or is it just me?
Throughout this, all this stuff, there's dance numbers, there's singing numbers. Like I said, it went on a bit too long. It did go on a little bit too long. The Sonny and Cher, you know, singing, dancing skit where Lee Quinzel actually shoots Joker in the stomach, which is foreshadowing about how she is going to betray him. Throughout the movie also, there's this question of like, how much of this is actually real? Arthur Fleck is obviously an unreliable narrator. So every day, Lee is there. She's watching his trial. She's sitting front and center. When she first came, she started in the back row. And then over the course of the trial, she moved up, 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 up. And she started to dress nicer and fancier and cooler. She was dressed in the Harlequin. She had the tights. She had the hair. She had the makeup. And she was just like... The police were escorting her inside because it's like, this is Joker's famous girlfriend. And like, she's there for him. And like, she was really in that, like, I'm dating a serial killer. She was loving all the attention from their little tryst. She claims to him that she got pregnant and that she moved into his old apartment and that she turned it into a beautiful home for them, which he exclaims to her, like, I do not want to go back there. Like, it's disgusting. Like, I would never want to live in that place. You know, especially her coming from the Upper West Side, wanting to stay in somewhere like that. It reminds me of like those kids who are not from the hood, but they like want to be hood so bad. Like, she literally wants to be down bad so bad that she's willing to lie. She's willing to go into the mental asylum. She's willing to do all these things. Like I said, Joker's representing himself in court. He's talking in weird accents. He's acting a damn fool all up and down the place. You know, there's musical numbers in the court. It's going crazy. Like, it does kind of remind you of a cartoon in a way. Like, the film started out as a cartoon, and it does kind of remind you of a cartoon. So we do get an appearance by Saucy Beats, who was in the first one, who played his neighbor in his apartment building. She gives her testimony. And she lets the court know about how horribly Arthur's mother used to talk about him, about how he had a stupid laugh and about how he wasn't funny. And you can see that this is really affecting Arthur. And this is what it all comes down to, is that he was just a guy who really slipped through the cracks. He had a horrible mother, a horrible upbringing, basically gum on the shoe of society. He was just never able to have a break. And just the way he was born, the way he was raised up, his own even... let's say mental illnesses that he developed, he might be neurodivergent, just put him in a very bad position. And this happens to so many people in the world. Millions and millions of people in the world just slip through the cracks. Unfortunately, for many people, it's gonna be dark. Life doesn't get better. That's what Arthur Fleck represents. He had a horribly abusive mother. I think they did say she abused him, because I remember they said that and he like jumped. I don't know. Were people just so obsessed and concerned with how much the movie was subverting their expectations, how much the movie was not what they wanted, that they couldn't even just enjoy it for what it actually was? One of Arthur's colleagues from the clown shop, school, whatever, came and testified on trial, and honestly, he gave such a touching testimony that actually made me very uncomfortable. You know, Arthur didn't harm him, and Arthur was one of the only people who was actually nice to him at their job. But the fact that Arthur M'd and K'd his coworker right in front of him, and how afraid he felt in that moment, it severely traumatized him. He couldn't work, he couldn't sleep. I watched an interview where the director, Todd Phillips, talked about how this whole monologue by Arthur's coworker is kind of a response to the reaction that audiences had to the first movie, who were glorifying the violence and glorifying what Arthur did, to show how actual violence really does affect people in real life, that it did with his coworker, that he, again, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. He was so afraid all the time. He was crying. He just couldn't. He was just so traumatized by this. And so this testimony also really affected Arthur, in that it made him sad. He ended up letting his defense rest. He didn't even question them because he didn't want to harm anymore. Like, he leaned into the Joker persona as a crutch, and then it came that he couldn't do it anymore. That wasn't who he really was. Being that this was the trial of the century back at Arkham Asylum, they're all watching this trial go on, and I believe that it was making the guards and everybody else very upset, because when Arthur got back to Arkham, the guards assaulted him, they beat him, they stripped him naked. They just were treating him so terribly, whereas earlier in the film, they were treating him a little bit like he was a celebrity, a little bit. They had him signing their books, which that scene was fucking crazy, by the way. You know what I'm talking about. When he wrote, I hope you get cancer, I was like, oh, yo, this dude is a gangster. Arthur gets thrown into his room. He's beaten very badly by the guards. One of Arthur's friends tries to defend him in the jail, and the guard ends up attacking the guy and strangling him and killing him. So the next day at trial, they have their closing arguments, and Arthur, during his closing arguments, decides that he's going to denounce his Joker persona. He admits that he knew what he was doing. He admits that everything that he did, and he takes responsibility. And he says basically that, you know, this is not the Joker, this is not a joke. Like, I am Arthur and I did these things. And just as he accepts responsibility for the stuff that he did, Harley Quinn, listening in the background, she gets up and leaves right away. And with her, a couple people also storm out with her. Because he didn't do what she wanted him to do, he didn't become that martyr. He didn't become the nihilistic, psychopathic, you know, watch it all burn guy. She didn't want anything to do with him. As the trial comes to a close, the jury reads out the verdict, and they read that they find the Joker, Arthur, guilty, guilty, guilty. And as they're reading out this verdict, the wall of the courthouse explodes. It's from a car bomb, and so somebody is trying to break Arthur out of jail. At this point, I said, oh, Harley left so that she can go get her man, okay? So Arthur manages to get up. He goes out of the courthouse. It's chaos. Harvey Dent, parts of his face are blown off, because we all know Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. Arthur Fleck runs out into the street. He runs into one of his followers who is dressed just like him. They take him and run with him, pull the cars over, get him into a car, and start driving him away. I'm not gonna lie, at this moment, I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. This is when he becomes Joker. Like, he's being driven in a car by two of his followers who are dressed just like him. Like, Todd Phillips really did that. Like, this was a real origin story, which is like, God, are we gonna ever get a real good, like, actually good origin story of Joker? I mean, it's not gonna be Todd Phillips. Clearly, somebody else is gonna have to do it. There's that other Batman universe with Robert Pattinson. going on. They're doing the Penguin Now series on HBO, which I have not watched yet. I remember at the end of the Batman movie, we all remember there was like a Joker thing. So like, what if they didn't really tell us because they wanted to see what Todd Phillips was gonna do first? But like, I want my Joker story. Like, I want to see the origins of Joker, who was one of the greatest villains of all time. He's my favorite. Like I said, he got in the car and I literally was like, oh, they're gonna take him, they're gonna escape with him, they're gonna get him out of the city, they're gonna get all their people together, their followers, and then they're going to like terrorize Batman. Like, that did not happen. That did not happen. Arthur jumps out of the car, he runs away. The city is in absolute chaos. He goes back to his old house. He goes up the famous stairs in the Bronx and he sees Harley Quinn there. She has her little makeup on and she has a different hairstyle, which, as I've seen, a lot of people interpret that we don't really know if this is actually real, if she is really there, because she had long hair. There was a moment prior to this when Arthur called her and she, stopped answering his phone calls. She didn't respond to him. There was like a motion where she put a thingy to her temple. It is disappointing, right? Because where this could have gone, but it's like, as a creative man, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people that are doing the criticizing, it's like, y'all don't know what this shit is like, man. Being a filmmaker, y'all don't know. Y'all don't want these problems, man. I know it probably seems like it's the easiest fucking thing in the world, but being a director, the mental fortitude and the amount of time that you spend on projects. My short film, I shot it in May, 5 months ago. I'm still working on it. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still having to sit with the editor and watch footage and like make sure everything's okay. And I'm still talking with the music people. I'm still like doing all these things for it. It's a lot. Okay, it takes a lot of time and my shit is like 9 minutes. Okay, so I can only imagine for two hours and change. It's a lot, man, to deal with this kind of thing. So Joker runs into her on the steps. He tells her that they can go away together. And she pretty much tells him, like, ew. She tells him that all that they had was the fantasy, that it wasn't real, that him as a Joker was the only person she was actually interested in. That being not who he was, she was never actually interested in him. I couldn't help but feel like this is like an incel and red pill podcast nightmare. She wanted his notoriety, the image of who he was and not who he actually was. And when she saw who he actually was, a mentally ill loser who was never going to get out of jail, who wasn't going to live this life of crime that created this notoriety, she broke his heart. The police came, picked him up, and she went on about her life. I think it's very obvious that she's very mentally ill as well. I'm sure that will go over a lot of people's heads. Very messed up. And like I said, I feel like it goes back to Arthur just was born unlucky. He wasn't going to get any breaks. He was not going to meet the girl of his dreams. Unfortunately, I feel like our society, we live in a society, I feel like our society makes it seem like everyone is capable of having a happy ending. My inner Joker is just saying, like, that's just not true. Some people's endings are very tragic, very bad. Many people don't ever find a life partner, don't ever fall in love. They don't ever have a good job. Arthur Fleck, I believe, speaks to many people's inner loser. People wanted to see him win. But if you know Arthur Fleck's life and his track record, he doesn't win. He doesn't get the girl. He doesn't win the trial. So, the next day after all this, Arthur is just living his regular life at the prison when one of the guards, one who used to be his friend, comes in and tells him that he has a visitor. And so he steps into the hallway, and the same guy earlier in the film that was watching him and observing him and, smiling at him and stuff, comes up to him and tells him that he wants to tell him a joke. I don't remember the joke exactly, but it doesn't even matter. The joke ends in him telling Joker that he's gonna get exactly what he fucking deserves. And he stabs him in the stomach multiple times, killing him. Arthur falls to the ground and he dies. It almost looks like he has a little bit of a smile on his face as he's dying. In the background, we can see this guy laughing his ass off. And then he decides to cut himself a Glasgow smile. And that's where the movie ends. Todd Phillips claimed that this movie was not a complete reaction to how people viewed the first one, but he claims that only really the coworker who was on the trial was really a reflection. And I honestly don't think that's true. I feel like Harley Quinn's whole character, the fact that she was with him as he was the clown prince of crime, as he was that sociopathic guy of like getting back at society, getting back at Gotham, getting back at America or whatever, that she was with him when he was that. But the second that it shows that who he really is, that he's actually someone, like I said, who slipped through the cracks, someone who's had a hard life, someone who's never gonna win, then all of a sudden she's just like, she's out. It literally is kind of like a reflection of how people have interpreted this movie. Because he wasn't that character in the second movie, people were just like, oh, fuck it, I'm out. People are leaving the theater. People are leaving bad reviews. People are saying he betrayed us. People are saying he's a hack. Like, not even taking a second to think about, oh, why do I feel so passionate about this? Anytime I feel super, super passionate about something, I'm always like, If I really, really hate something, I'm like, why is that triggering me? Let's dig deeper. Let's get into why that is. Harley Quinn is kind of like us in a way. Well, not me, because I said the movie wasn't that bad, but a lot of people in a way who are just ready to walk out. And I'm sure that Todd Phillips expected this. Maybe he expected this and thought that it was gonna lead people to come see the movie, because that's a whole other conversation that we will have at some point about the fact that this movie cost $200 million. Like, what? I know that those studio sets, them days doing them little mini music videos, I'm sure the psych walls that they probably had and all that cost a lot. But the character that ended up killing Joker, a lot of people speculate that he is the destiny of Joker. So the Arthur Fleck Joker that we know is what will eventually inspire the real Joker who ends up becoming a nemesis of Batman. You know, especially considering that the Joker has so many fans and followers, it makes sense why he might be inspired by that and become that. He may become the Joker that he thought that Arthur Fleck should have been. That's like a real thing. Like, think about Rick Ross, right? Rick Ross is a rapper, and Rick Ross is not the real Rick Ross. Like, the Rick Ross that we know was a prison guard. Correct me if I'm wrong. The real Rick Ross was an actual drug dealer who was really committing crimes and doing a bunch of effed up stuff. And Rick Ross, the Rick Ross we know, who was a prison guard, based his persona off of that guy. You know, he's not the first rapper to do that. You know, I had a lot of thoughts based off of different things that I seen. But again, like I said, I feel like a lot of people are dragging it. I don't think that the movie was bad as people are making it out to be. I honestly do appreciate Todd Phillips taking the road less traveled. Honestly, like, he could have really gave people a part 2, and then, you know, he could have gotten again a blank check to make a part 3. But he chose to make art. He chose to take a risk. He chose to do something different. And honestly, I have nothing but respect for him. There is probably a grieving process that a lot of these angry people are going through, knowing that there is not going to be another Joker. There isn't going to be another Joker in this universe, which, you know, it's not that he's obligated to do this, but it does. I can understand why people feel like, why would you get us riled up? Why would you get us so invested just to like do this to us? People are probably gonna just want to rip me a second asshole, but I understand when people are upset. Like, I totally get it. He built us such a good Gotham and a great Joker, and it's over. I get it. I understand. I'm a fan. I get it. You know, he chose art over fan service. and I respect it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a comment, rate and subscribe. Let me know what you think. I want to know I have to know what you guys think about the Joker movie. I have to know about what you guys think about some of the things I said. Listen, I know that some of my thoughts probably will piss people off, but you can disagree, but I just ask you guys, please disagree respectfully in the comments, or you're gonna get that blockiana. We gotta understand that, yeah, this movie may not be what we asked for, but we have to really ask ourselves, does that make it bad? I also think that another message of this film is that, you know how they always say that you're never supposed to meet your heroes? Well, I feel like not only with Harley Quinn, but this movie just goes to show that you should also never meet your biggest fan. Again, thank you guys so much. And that being said, I hope you all get what you fucking deserve.